It's been probably like a month since you and I recorded a podcast in real life.
Yeah, it has. I don't know.
I think it was like January when we recorded our last podcast.
Well, I know I hadn't fought with the web or the podcast recording software in a little while, so it was a fresh battle this morning to get it all in there.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, we really need to figure out how we're doing this. And so I've been like playing around with StreamYard and a bunch of other tools to try to like get us like synchronized and feeling like real human beings rather than just like I know we're using Zencaster for those guys you didn't know. We use Zencaster to record things, and then we get great ideas. I'm like, hey, we should do something else, because we're getting a lot of people commenting, a lot of people watching our podcast, and we're kind of getting a lot of traction. And so the idea was that we should move into like a StreamYard or something where we can show all the people commenting and try to really push that conversations a little bit more. Mm-hmm. It's kind of our thing. So what I've been doing is playing around, and then all of a sudden, like, man, we are way behind on podcasts. So, here we are pushing out podcasts for this next March upcoming events. And we have a number of guests that are coming on. I just needed to start recording.
There we
go. Stop playing and start recording, which brings us to our topic for today. Like in your life, like you get great ideas. The ideas are cheap. Everybody has great ideas, and then you implement them, and then you find out that either they were a great idea or there's a reason why no one ever did this.
Yep.
And so here we kind of like have spent the last I think we're up to 15 months now redeveloping a platform because we had some great ideas on how things should be done with account management and conversations, which started off as a VCIO platform, has now become something much bigger. I'm like, oh crap, are we going in the wrong direction?
Right.
Is this not the right thing? But then we started winning awards.
Yep.
And we start having demos with clients, and we get this validation back that says like, oh my gosh, where was this 3 months ago? Or we get from a venue, like we're there with 150 other vendors that are paying a lot more money than us, but we get singled out as you're doing something really good.
Yep.
And we want to acknowledge that. So best solution of 2022 from ConnectWise, best in show at ASCII, channel program, best solution. I mean, if you look at our webpage, we're starting to accumulate a number of awards. Not that we're paying for these, but it's just a community validating what we're doing.
And that's interesting.
So go ahead.
Those awards, it was kind of funny, once we kind of started putting more effort into making sure people, could see us, we attracted people who, that's their business. And they're like, hey, pay us, $5,000 and we'll give you this award.
Yeah.
Really? Is that where all these are coming from? And so, we have, eschewed those.
Validation.
Yeah, not us. But also on this validation, so I get the opportunity to work with a lot of our members, and it's getting significantly more fun here in the last few months because more and more of my member calls are, rather than starting out, hey, I don't know how to edit this. They're starting out with, hey, look at all this stuff I've done. Could I do this too? And they're just taking the tool, and we get in there, and I start, they're sharing their screen, and I'm looking at stuff, and I'm going, wow, you guys are really running with this. And they're like, oh yeah, this is great. This has changed, so much.
Wait till Monday, man.
Oh, I know, and it is kind of funny because they'll say, can we do this? I'm like, can you wait a week? Can you wait? And this has been going on for a couple of months now. And so it's just building. Well, no, I mean, it's, it was the budgets, but then there was a filter option that we didn't have, and it got added in a little push. And, it's just, it's really nice because not only are people, seeing the new changes and they're really excited about them, but then they start asking about, well, can we do this? And like, yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Just give us a little bit of time and you'll be able to do that. Or, hey, yes, we, a few of them I get to follow up with and say, hey, you remember when you were asking for this other filter? Double check your screen. It's there now. And that's really cool, enjoyable activities.
So everybody's heard me say this term, like, and maybe we'll do a whole podcast on my 3 core principles. laziness, hubris, and impatience. The
Yep.
three great virtues according to the Pearl Handbook. And that Pearl is in the coding language, not Pearl as in some kind of Zen,
Yep.
crystal mythology.
Now, is that the O'Reilly book that you're talking about?
It is the
Okay.
O'Reilly book.
Okay. All right.
And
So
the
we're
book.
all. I've said that now. Everybody. Well, not everybody. All the old guys out there. We're all on the same page now.
That's validation. For those of you who got that reference, you're my people.
Yes. We get you.
Yeah, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, the O'Reilly book." I'm like, "Oh, friend,
Yeah.
you've been there." That was a great books. But anyways,
Yeah.
only significant to people who've had to learn scripting and coding the proper way.
Yeah.
Anyways, so in the back of the book, there are three great virtues, and one of them is impatience or laziness. And I talk about this all the time. Adam Walter's lazy, and I promise, even in our demo calls, like guys, I promise that I will always be lazy, and I will help you be lazy too. And that's something that's an alignment thing. So some people immediately resonates with the laziness, the ability to do things so well you don't have to do them again.
Mm-hmm.
That's laziness.
Right.
And so there's another one which is called hubris. And hubris is the ability to do things so well that other people brag about them.
No.
And so that is when you know you've done something great in your life. When somebody else outside unbidden comes back and says, "Have you seen this stuff is really cool," or "This person is amazing, this thing that was accomplished is a big deal," and they do that not just to uplift you, but because they actually see what you did. And there's this moment in the dev cycle, you're like sitting there going, "This is going to be huge," and then nothing happens. And then you do it again and nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, like, it starts catching on. And people are like, "Wait a minute, that's really cool. Because if I can do that, I can," and they start putting pairs together and they show Skip in the middle of a call, like, "Hey, I'm trying to do this. How do this is really cool." And all of a sudden they're showing us things that like they're bragging about our product. Like, "Can I just do this one more thing?" And we're like, "Yeah, now you're aligning with us." And there's that validation that we're on the right track because Skip can now say, "Yes," in a week. In a week, we'll be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a lot of that stuff for focus. And we really need to have that validation to know you're on the right track. A lot of people will move forward and they'll just talk into an echo chamber and they won't get true validation back. You're just getting an echo chamber back. The people you are paying are saying back to you, "Yeah, you're cool."
Right.
But when you get back from people that have no business in where you are, they have no ties to you, and they're saying you're cool, and they have that validation of, "Wow, you are on the right track here." It's kind of like that parent when they hear from their kid, "Thanks."
Yeah.
It's rare, but when you get it, you're like, "Thank you for helping me."
Right. Yeah. Well, on that hubris idea, there is there's kind of a fine line there because at some point you do feel you have to just push on. It's that hubris that comes over you that says, "I know what needs to be done." No one's telling me that this needs to be done. I know what it needs to be done. And there's a scary moment in there, at least for me, when we're running down this path and we're like, "Am I just being, foolishly hubris, right? Am I just listening to myself and the echoes that are coming back, or is this really going to work?" But if you do it right and you stay with it, then you get to build in that, and you get that feedback, and then that empowers the next cycle. And I had a really interesting experience out at ASCII, and we have been pushing this message about the strategic engagements and where you need to be and how these need to be happening. And the really cool part about it is I had someone come up and basically tell me I was wrong. All right. And he laid out, his reasons, and he said, "I don't need my customers telling me what's important to them. I know what's important to them." Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And, there's a part of me that would have kind of tried to play the diplomatic route in the past and would have tried to said, well, maybe we can work with this, and adapt. And, I am really one of those adaptable people. Let's all get along kind of thing. Right. But I don't know, I guess just the process that we've been on, I was like, no, I'm not wrong. You're wrong. And it was late in the conference and everything was winding down. And so he and I just, it was all good natured, but he and I just took about 15 minutes to go back and forth and tell each other why they were wrong. But my hubris helped me stick to my guns.
Yeah.
And I
Like
still
confidence.
feel I was right.
Like, because I run across those guys again, like you're going to come into the grinder if you tell me that.
Yeah.
And
I told Sebastian Adam's rubbing off on me
yeah,
because
yeah,
I
I
wouldn't
am not
let
the
this go.
diplomat.
I wouldn't let it go.
I will discuss and I will hold my guns, but if you can change my mind too. Like
Mm.
I am flexible,
Yes, yes.
but I'm also very self-confident. So if you come to me and say, "Oh, I know what my customers need." Okay, you think you do. Let me tell you
Yeah,
a story.
right. Yeah.
And so it's just, but you get that confirmation of when we have MSPs over and over again, they start off with that idea of like, I know what my customers need. They say, tell you what, just once go into your customer and ask them about their business.
Hmm.
And wait, just shut up and listen.
That's the important one.
And at the end, decide whether or not you knew.
Hmm.
And because you're going to have new projects and new ideas at the end of that meeting. Now you've got an idea
Yeah.
because you listened first. You thought you knew what your client needed, but the problem was you didn't know what you didn't know.
Hmm.
And because you weren't listening, you felt very confident in what you're doing. And then that's where this validation comes back. When your client comes back to you and goes, "Oh my gosh, we just had our record quarter because our sales guys have been on the road," and it wasn't directly correlated to you, but it sure is a coincidence that it started hitting upscale when you started listening to your clients and
Hmm.
started empowering them. Yes, you do have a lot of answers, but you can feel very confident if you don't wait for the validation point.
Right.
If you think that the reason why you're being successful is because you're hitting your own metrics, that is essentially an echo chamber.
Hmm.
When you're hitting somebody else's metrics is when you get that validation. When you're
Yes.
helping other people, when you're actually moving the dial, that is when you know you're making a difference. Because the whole purpose of technology is to move the business dial. That is what
Yep.
we're there for. We
Yep.
are not there for security. We're not there for risk mitigation. We are there to move the business dial forward. And if you move that dial forward, if you get that validation that you have moved the dial forward, then you're good. If you're saying, hey, we have fewer tickets this month than we did last month, that's not moving the dial forward. That's
Right.
operational efficiency.
That's it. Exactly.
That's not
So
validation. That's validation that your ticketing process is not broken anymore. That is not helping your customers other than you are less of a burden now. But what
yeah.
you want to do is you want to have your clients say, because of you, we are leading our space. Because
Mhm.
of the efforts of our technology, we are leading. And
Well,
so
yeah,
I
and so
want,
you mentioned a story, and so I got to throw one in here. So I've got a appreciable amount of oil and gas experience in my, in my experience moving around. My time in the corporate world was the oil and gas environment, and I'm working at an MSP, and we've got a customer in the oil and gas industry. So it kind of gets tossed my way. Hey, Skip, you know what these guys do. You're familiar with all this. Go talk to them. And so we run out there, and I'm starting to gear up, and I've got this preconceived notion about what this client needs, what they need to do. And so I schedule a SWAT session with them. And I was really, this worked out really well for me because I could have easily put my foot in my mouth on this one. Fortunately, I did what I mentioned earlier ago is important. I was able to shut up and listen. But we started this SWAT session, and I'm not providing any information, right? I'm throwing ideas or throwing prompts out there, and they're bringing all this information to light. And we're 10, 15 minutes long into this session, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really know nothing about what this company does. I mean, yes, technically it's oil and gas, but what they are doing within the industry was something I really had no experience and no appreciation for. So, I just fortunately shut up and listened, made lots of notes. And the great thing about that was there was just tons of ideas and initiatives that I was able to propose technology solutions for to solve their businesses. So I knew the technology solutions, document management, some backup systems. It was all really standard technical stuff, but I had no idea that there was a business need for it within the environment. But then I did. I shut up and listened, and then I heard. So it's really important to listen there.
Yeah, and that's and again, the way you know you're listening is that validation. When
Mhm.
unprompted, the person on the other side of the table starts becoming enamored with the conversation, with
Mhm.
the engagement process. And it's like you guys all talk about how teenagers are arrogant and they're so self-confident. And we all
Yes.
know why. It's because they
Yeah.
don't have the life experience to have failed yet.
Yep.
When
Yep.
when you are by the time you're in your 40s and your 50s, you have a couple major failures under your belt.
Just a couple? Oh.
Well, some of us are better than others.
Okay. Man.
So you have a few failures under your belt, and you're like, it's not always going to work out. Sometimes it's going to go very wrong. And
Mhm.
you know what? You keep going. And that's how you get that self confidence, understanding that this can fail, that things can go wrong. And when you have an echo chamber and you surround yourself with people who always agree with you, you're constantly getting validation that is akin to a circle jerk, for lack of a better term. Everybody's validating each other because you're all getting something out of the situation. But if when you're sitting there and you're getting feedback from disparate systems and you failed and you kind of see that this is moving forward, and you start thinking, okay, I didn't know everything.
Right.
I have now discovered that there is more to this. Because if you're constantly going in and you're the expert and you know everything there is to know about this business you're in front of, wow, you must be some kind of god. Because no one, even the people in this industry for dentists, they don't know their own business that well. And these are extremely bright people, or
Right.
veterinarians, or doctors' offices, or pharmacists, or mechanics. They're all trying to figure out their own business, but you have all the answers. You're just a
Right.
teenager who
Yeah.
hasn't learned what they don't know yet. They
Yeah.
haven't failed enough. And so you've got to walk into that room thinking, there is a large gap between what I know and what they know. I know my vertical really well, and I have the answers in my vertical, but I don't know their vertical. And I've got to learn about it. And that first time you get that aha moment, that's how I started on this whole path. I got the aha moments of like, I didn't know the company I was working in.
Right. Yeah.
And I started
Yeah.
learning about it. And like, I started becoming a champion for my companies that I was working
Mhm.
in. And you should too. And until you've had that aha moment, that mountaintop experience of, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how misaligned I was. If you have that confidence that I know everything there is to know about this client, I know what they need to do,
Yeah.
then you're wrong. There's no way.
Right. Not
There's
at all.
no way you
Yep.
know. The only reason you can have that level of confidence is if you're in an echo chamber.
Yep. Well, let me give
Usually,
you.
I usually say, well, I got some suggestions where I think will work. Um, I think we should try these things. I think that they'll really help out, but I'm not certain. What do you think?
Yeah.
That's how you know you're maturing. That's how you know you're hitting to that. Okay, I've learned some lessons. I don't always have the right answers. Sometimes my answers are wrong. Um, okay, I need to learn. I need to learn more, and I need to put things in place that matter to you because in the past I haven't been doing that.
Yeah. Well, and so here's it's a little bit of an older example, but 2006. All right.
Oh,
Here's an example of the echo chamber. Right.
dude, that was almost 20 years ago.
Hush. Hush. All right. All right. So a while ago, here's an example of an echo chamber. It wasn't just one person. Here's a board of directors. All right. They're based out of Fort Worth, Texas. All right. Long live the Republic, but everybody has their issues. All right. This is a incredibly successful, Fortune 500 company, just off the charts growth. All right. Blockbuster. All right. And they get this guy that has this little company based out of California called Netflix. And he comes before the board and he tells them, hey, I think I've got this better way of doing things. The whole board, listening to themselves, trapped in this echo chamber, says, you're wrong. We've got it down pat. We're the best thing ever. All right? Netflix shrugs their shoulders, leaves. Forget the dates exactly, but I think it was as soon as 2009 or 10.
It was like 2 or 3 years later.
It wasn't long later. Blockbuster is falling. They're filing for bankruptcy. I mean, they didn't listen. They're scrambling, trying to come back around because they had trapped themselves in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And you really got to be careful of that.
Yeah, and it's an easy thing. Like it's easy to look from the outside and say, "Oh, well, it was obvious. Streaming was the future. I mean, that's why everybody had streaming service. Why wouldn't Blockbuster know that?" Do you know that your clients feel the same way about you? It's obvious.
Wow.
Why this MSP keeps coming in and telling me I need new PCs? They're telling me I need to patch more. They're telling me to do all this stuff. We are trying to move to a new infrastructure. We're trying to implement a new HMS, and our MSP isn't helping us at all. We need to go find an MSP who specializes in HMS, health management systems, so we can get support here.
Yeah.
Because right now, if we don't have this HMS in place, they're going to revoke our license as a doctor's office.
Right.
You know how much those PCs mean to that doctor's office is when that is on the table and you aren't helping it because you aren't asking questions like, what's the biggest problem you're having today? Yeah. Well, we've got this HMS that we're implementing in August, and it is a big deal. Yeah. And you think, okay, let's do a PC refresh because you need to get your margins. No.
Right.
That doctor's office is going to drop you but they need those PCs, right? They need to be up on those patches because of HIPAA compliance. And that's all you care about. But you need to listen. Right. They need to be on this new HMS system by August or they lose all business because they have to migrate because maybe the old HMS is no longer supported. Maybe the old HMS is losing their license and now they need to get a HIPAA compliant portal. Or maybe, there's a number of reasons. Oh, yeah. That HMS is number one for that doctor's office. Right. And then they're going to use that to help their clients. And so you have to be in tune with that. And if you're over there selling patches and selling firewalls, thinking you understand their HIPAA compliance and the big concerns for them,
right?
You'll never know. You will walk around self-confident that you know everything your client needs. Because you're not listening, just like a teenager doesn't listen. They think they know everything. They think they're so self-confident, and then you watch them walk in face first into that furnace, and then watch them get torched and hope they survive it. Because then they come out the other side going, "Whoa, that sucked."
Yep.
Okay, I need to make sure before I open a door, I should touch the door handle, make sure it's not burning on the other side. Yep. Before I do these things, I should check. As an MSP, that first time you align with businesses, you start going, holy crap, we were going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Well, and you've mentioned it, but like the PCs or the HMS, whatever it is, if those metrics, those goals and objectives that you can completely control, those are internal, those are operational. And when you have something that's outside of your complete control, then that is going to be a real validation. Can you contribute enough value to that project that the company sees an effect in their bottom line? Yeah, whatever. And that's the cool part about it. It's not going to be, maybe it is just what's the bottom number on the spreadsheet, right? But maybe, they're trying to gain more customers. Maybe they're trying to open new offices or attract new talent. I mean, there's just a ton of other metrics out there that can provide that validation, but
Uh,
they're not entirely within your control.
Getting people to say our software is really cool is one thing. Hearing a story of an MSP whose margins increased or their profit increased last year, that's when I know I'm on the right track.
Yes.
That
Yes.
because of us changing a mindset into be business focused, that suddenly you're making $20,000-$30,000 a quarter more. That's a needle that I like to move. So
Yep.
the validation you should seek should be independent. Skip's got a great point there. Should be independent of what you're doing. So when you talk to your clients and your customers, you should be saying, is what I'm doing helping them in some meaningful way, independent of what I'm doing? If I am installing hardware and software, is it helping their business succeed? I
Mhm.
mean, if you're a doctor, if you are giving advice and prescribing things to your patient, is their quality of life increasing? Are they now able to go on a jog every once in a while? Are they now able to pick up their grandchild? These are things that like now you know what you're doing is accomplishing something. What is the point of what you're doing if it's only self-serving? So look for
Well,
that validation. And the external market will do that for you. Like right now, yes, we're receiving awards and we hear from other MSPs that we're helping them grow. And it's all them, it's all their hero journey. We're just a piece of it. We're trying to augment what they're doing. We're strengthening their position. And because we're strengthening it in the right way, we see them grow. If we start strengthening it in the wrong way, we won't get that feedback. A great idea we had may not pan out to be something that's going to help growth. It might just be something that's slick and cool to look at.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we have to be cognizant of that because the enemy of growth is narcissism. It's great to
Mhm.
drink your own Kool-Aid and believe in yourself, and that self-confidence is addictive. But it's better when somebody else brags about what you're doing because they believe in it and they're seeing opportunity from it. And that is
Absolutely.
the power of
Absolutely.
validation.
Yep. I like that.
Thank you, Skip.
Okay.
We got a nice run of just you and I on podcasts here for a little while. So
All right, man. Looking forward.
keep people entertained. We'll see everyone next week.
All right.